Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something, well, pretty universal. Complaining.
Yeah, we all do it. Maybe more than we realize sometimes.
Exactly, from, the little daily annoyances to the big stuff, it just happens. But what's actually going on, like, inside our heads, our bodies, when we complain?
That's the big question. And we're diving into a discussion from the EDP English Dialogue podcast channel today,
Right.
trying to unpack how this habit, which seems pretty harmless, actually impacts your brain and your health.
So the mission here is, what? To understand it better. Make smarter choices, maybe.
Precisely. Understand the impact so you can be a bit more conscious about handling emotions, communicating, that sort of thing.
Okay, let's start with the brain then, the control center. What happens, like, immediately when we start complaining?
Well, it's interesting because your body reacts pretty fast. Complaining often triggers the release of stress hormones. Think cortisol, adrenaline.
The usual suspects for stress.
Exactly. It's basically activating that fight or flight response. The system designed for, actual danger.
But it kicks in even if the danger is just frustrating traffic.
Yeah, it can. And while that response is useful sometimes, in short bursts, the problem is when we trigger it constantly through regular complaining.
Okay, so it's not just venting steam. It's a real biological thing happening.
Definitely.
And if that cortisol keeps spiking because we're complaining a lot, what are the longer-term issues? It's got to be more than just feeling stressed out, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about chronic stress.
Mhm.
High cortisol over time, it can mess with how your brain works. Specifically, areas like the hippocampus, which is key for memory and learning.
So trouble concentrating, remembering things.
Yeah, exactly. Impaired memory, difficulty focusing. Plus, this constant stress state contributes to physical stuff too. Hypertension, a weaker immune response, even potentially things like weight gain because it affects metabolism.
So that totally wiped out feeling after a long moan fest.
That's not just imagined. Not at all. There's a real physiological basis for feeling drained by negativity. Our bodies aren't really built for that constant low-level stress strip.
Right, they're built for the quick sprint away from danger, not a marathon of complaining.
Well put.
And it feels like the more you complain, the easier it gets. Like the brain gets good at being negative. How does that work?
That leads us straight into neuroplasticity, the brain's amazing ability to change and rewire itself.
Okay.
There's this principle, sometimes called Hebbian learning, neurons that fire together, wire together.
Right, I've heard that.
So when you repeatedly focus on negative stuff by complaining, you're literally strengthening the connections, the neural pathways for negativity.
You're paving a negativity highway in your brain.
Kind of, yeah. Those paths become more efficient. It gets easier for your brain to just default to seeing the negative side of things.
So those little complaints, repeated day after day, they actually carve out this path of least resistance for our thoughts. That sounds like it could be a really tough cycle to break.
It really can be. The more you complain, the more your brain almost starts to expect negativity. It looks for it.
A negativity bias.
Exactly. Which then, of course, gives you more things to complain about. It feeds itself, a real cycle.
And this whole process, it's not just happening inside our own heads, is it? I mean, I can imagine nonstop complaining must affect relationships too.
Oh, definitely. It has a huge social impact. If you're habitually complaining, you can start to seem, well, pessimistic, draining even.
Yeah, nobody really wants to hang around the person who's always finding fault, do they?
Not usually. Over time, people might start to pull back, maybe not even consciously, just to protect their own energy, their own well-being.
That makes sense. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And if people do start distancing themselves, that could lead to feeling pretty alone.
It's a real risk. Being constantly surrounded by negativity, whether you're dishing it out or receiving it, can definitely contribute to feelings of isolation, loneliness. People naturally gravitate towards more positive interactions.
Okay, so we've painted maybe a slightly bleak picture of the downsides here. Stress, brain wandering, relationship strain.
Yeah.
But what about the other side? If we manage to cut back on complaining, what good things happen? Beyond just, feeling a bit less grumpy.
Well, the flip side is actually really positive neurochemically. When you consciously shift your focus, try to find the positive, your brain gets a nudge to release the feel-good chemicals.
Like dopamine, serotonin.
Exactly those. They're linked to feelings of happiness, well-being, motivation. So you're basically giving your brain a little reward for focusing on the good stuff.
The brain's natural mood boosters. And I know gratitude comes up a lot here. How does actively being thankful actually push back against the urge to complain?
Gratitude is super powerful for this. It's like active brain retraining. By consciously looking for and appreciating the good things, even tiny ones, you reinforce those positive neural pathways.
So you're strengthening the good pathways instead of the complaint pathways.
Precisely. Your brain literally starts getting better at noticing and valuing the positive.
What about things like gratitude journals? Writing stuff down. Does that actually work? Is it effective for changing that negativity bias?
Yeah, studies suggest it really can be. Regularly writing down things you're grateful for is a simple but pretty potent way to solidify those positive patterns. It makes the good stuff more concrete in your mind.
Interesting. And mindfulness or meditation. People talk about those for everything, but how do they fit in with complaining?
They help build awareness. Mindfulness teaches you to notice your thoughts and feelings without immediately judging them or reacting to them.
Okay.
So you might notice the urge to complain bubble up, but because you're more aware, you have this little space, this pause.
The chance to choose a different reaction.
Exactly. You can see the thought, acknowledge it, and then maybe choose not to voice the complaint or to reframe it. Plus, these practices help reduce rumination, getting stuck on negative thoughts, which often fuels complaining.
Right, that mental hamster wheel of negativity. So mindfulness creates a pause. And you mentioned problem solving earlier, too. How does focusing on solutions help cut down complaints?
It's a really key shift. Complaining often just dwells on the problem, right? It's kind of passive.
Yeah, just stating the bad thing.
But developing problem-solving skills moves you into an active mode. You shift focus from "this is terrible" to "okay, what can I do about this?"
Taking action.
Right. It reduces the need to just vent negatively because you're actually working on fixing the issue. Plus, it gives you a sense of control, of agency, which feels much better than feeling like a victim of circumstances.
That makes a lot of sense, active versus passive. But hang on, we're not suggesting people should just bottle everything up, are we? Like, never express any frustration. Is there a healthy way to complain?
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial point. Occasional complaining, especially if it's, genuinely letting off steam about something specific, or maybe seeking support to find a solution, that can be totally fine. Healthy, even.
So it's about the pattern.
Exactly. The problem isn't the occasional vent. It's when complaining becomes the default, the dominant pattern. It's about balance. Healthy expression versus, constant negativity.
Gotcha. Moderation is key, like with most things.
Pretty much.
And thinking back to relationships again, if we shift away from constant complaining towards more positive communication, that must really help connections, right?
Immensely. Frequent complaining just creates this heavy atmosphere, makes people uncomfortable. People are generally drawn to positivity.
Yeah, you want to be around people who lift you up, not drag you down.
Right. So when you communicate more positively, it improves everyone's mood, fosters more support, makes interactions feel more meaningful and enjoyable.
Creates that positive feedback loop you mentioned earlier. Good interactions make you feel good, which encourages more good interactions.
Exactly. And those positive social moments also give you that little boost of dopamine and serotonin, reinforcing the brain's pathways for happiness. It's a really beneficial cycle.
Okay, let's talk self-perception. How does complaining all the time affect how we actually see ourselves, our self-esteem?
Well, if you're constantly focusing your attention on what's wrong, what you failed at, what's not good enough, which is often what complaining does, that can really start to chip away at your sense of self-worth. You start to define yourself by the negatives.
Whereas if you shift focus,
If you consciously focus on your strengths, your achievements, positive qualities, even small wins, that helps build a much healthier, more robust self-image. Where you put your mental energy really shapes your self-perception.
so positive self-talk would be important here too.
Hugely important. Actively challenging those negative inner thoughts, the self-criticism that often underlies complaints, and replacing them with more balanced or positive affirmations. That can make a big difference to self-esteem and your overall outlook.
Makes sense. What about just getting stuff done, productivity, motivation? How does complaining impact those?
Complaining, essentially dwelling on problems, takes up a lot of mental energy. It can be really draining.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that drain significantly reduces your motivation to actually tackle the problems. It often leads to less productivity, maybe more procrastination.
It's like you get stuck talking about the problem instead of doing something about it. It creates a kind of mental drag.
That's a good way to put it, mental drag. Whereas shifting focus towards, okay, what's the root cause here? What steps can I actually take? That energizes you, enhances productivity.
And less negative chatter probably clears your head too, right? For better thinking.
Absolutely. Reducing those negative thought loops frees up mental bandwidth, Leads to clearer thinking, better focus, probably better decision making too.
Okay, this one might surprise some people. Sleep. How on earth does complaining affect our sleep?
Well, think about what fuels complaining. Often it's stress, worry, frustration.
Right.
Those states of mind are the opposite of what you need to relax and fall asleep. Persistent negative thinking, rehashing problems in your head that directly interferes with sleep quality.
So you lie there stewing instead of sleeping.
Pretty much. And then, of course, poor sleep makes you more stressed, more irritable, more prone to negative emotions the next day.
Which probably leads to more complaining.
Exactly. It's another one of those negative cycles. Getting good sleep is so fundamental for brain health and well-being, and minimizing that pre-sleep negativity is a big part of that.
Wow, okay. The effects are really wide-ranging.
Hmm.
So let's get practical. What are some actual, concrete things people can do to complain less?
One really powerful tool is positive reframing.
Okay, what's that exactly?
It's about consciously choosing to look at a situation differently, finding a more positive or constructive angle. So instead of, this traffic is awful, my whole morning is ruined,
Yeah.
you might try to think, okay, this traffic is frustrating, but hey, more time to listen to this great deep dive. Or I can use this time to mentally plan my day.
Finding the silver lining, basically.
Wow.
Even a small one.
Exactly. It changes how you feel about it and often how you then talk about it.
I like that. What else?
Right.
What other strategies?
Setting boundaries is important, especially in conversations. If you're with someone who's complaining nonstop, you can gently try to steer things towards solutions or just a more positive topic.
Without being rude, just shifting the focus.
Right. And also think about who you spend time with. Surrounding yourself with more positive, solution-focused people that can rub off on you in a good way.
Makes sense. Attitudes are contagious.
They really are. Another thing is engaging in activities that naturally boost your mood and cut stress.
Like exercise, hobbies.
Yeah, exercise is a big one, releases endorphins, great stress outlet, hobbies you enjoy, spending time in nature. Anything that genuinely makes you feel better reduces the underlying need to complain.
Okay, that's good advice. And you mentioned self-compassion.
Yes, this is really key. Being kind to yourself when things inevitably go wrong. Instead of beating yourself up, which often leads to complaining about yourself or the situation, try acknowledging the struggle with understanding. Treat yourself like you'd treat a friend in the same situation. It lessens that knee-jerk negativity.
That's a really nice way to think about it. Be your own friend.
Yeah. And finally, if complaining feels like a really deep-rooted habit, something that's seriously affecting your happiness or relationships,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to seek professional help. A therapist or counselor can offer fantastic support, help you uncover any underlying issues driving the negativity, and give you tailored coping strategies.
Right. Sometimes you need that extra support.
Definitely.
So wrapping this up, it really sounds like just being aware of how much we complain and understanding its impact on our brains, our stress levels, our relationships is the crucial first step.
That really is the core takeaway. That awareness empowers you. It gives you the chance to choose differently, to consciously cultivate more positive habits.
Like gratitude, like focusing on solutions, maybe reframing things.
Exactly. And seeking support when needed. It's about making those conscious choices that nudge you towards a more positive, more fulfilling way of living. Small steps, consistently.
And remembering that, venting sometimes is okay.
Yeah.
That's human.
Absolutely. And nobody's aiming for robotic positivity. It's just about preventing that negativity from becoming the default, from dominating your life and hurting your well-being and connections.
This has been really insightful. Definitely gives you food for thought.
Hopefully.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Think about one area, just one part of your life where you tend to complain the most. Based on everything we've talked about, what's one small shift maybe in how you think about it, or one tiny action you could try this week, something to mull over. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.